It's dorkshelf.com.
You're now rocking with TDF Everything. Spoiled Rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hey, hey, hey.
It's Spoiled Rotten.
Coming to you from a warm apartment.
Yeah, if you hear fans, I don't know what to tell you. It's really hot.
If you hear fans, that's people fanning us in the background.
Yeah.
Our fans fanning us in the background. Because we're meta like that.
Exactly.
But we are Ben.
And Daniel.
And this is Spoiled Rotten on Dork Shelf.
Yeah, boom, boom. Okay.
You thought I forgot, but I just hesitated. That was a fake out.
I wanted some dramatic tension.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha.
Yep, let's talk about things.
Things.
Let's talk about sad things first.
So, very sad thing that happened. Steve Ditko, one of the co-creators of Spider-Man and one of the big founding fathers or just contributors to the Marvel
and
comic book
Doctor
universe.
Strange.
And Doctor Strange, man, like genius mind, had passed away, and so upsetting. And
Yeah.
sorry to hear that. I mean, he died at like 90 some odd years young.
Well, he was born in 1927, so if
Wow.
anyone is good at math, they can...
They could do that for us, or we could quick Google it, but we're a little bit distraught about it. So
I actually had his thing pulled up on purpose. So I can,
it's just we are going to miss him quite a bit. Yeah, it's very upsetting news.
Yeah, so that's a moment of silence for him. All right. Yeah. So
How long are those moments supposed to be?
I think you just do it, and I think in a
Until
podcast
consensus.
format, it's really awkward to actually
It's so
lean
awkward.
into it as like a 30-second endeavor. I think you
Yes.
kind of have to just be quiet, let people acknowledge that it's not a pause in the audio, but an actual moment of silence,
Correct.
and then keep it moving. But let us know how we did on that. We're always willing to get it better on stuff like that.
Yeah, and we can edit different kind of moments of silence too. So
It's true. Or you can pause it when we say moment of silence.
1.5 hour. Yes, that's okay.
You pause. You do what you think is respectable amount.
Yes. But anyways, goodbye to Stevie Ditko.
Yeah.
He will be missed. And you have created.
Some great. I mean,
An
obviously,
amazing-
Spider-Man is like my third favorite. I mean,
Downgraded.
no, he was my second favorite, and then I realized I really like Dick Grayson. So,
Nice.
yeah, I really love Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange was always. I mean, I thought he was always connected with Spider-Man mostly because of the animated series, and they had great moments in Infinity War.
Great moments in Infinity War.
Yeah, so let's start off with Idris Elba being or I'm assuming it's official that he will be the villain in
official.
the Hobbs and Shaw. I did see the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson tweet about, oh, this guy's a
The
badass. I
Rock
should probably get in shape, and then he
Yep.
winky face. So yeah, I mean, if The Rock is reporting on it, it must be true.
Yep.
So I really like that. I tweeted out from our Twitter account that this franchise knows how to cast people that make me be like, I have to see
It
that.
really does.
Like, I was so happy when they finally got Helen Mirren involved.
Yep.
Obviously, the initial casting The Rock, and I was like, wait, I do want to see The Rock and Vin Diesel fight.
Yeah.
And they have, I mean, they've never disappointed in terms of when they bring in these people initially. I can't speak to how it continues on, but whenever they bring someone in initially, it's always a good time in terms of that character. So I am looking forward to that.
Yeah, and they did some other really interesting casting recently too. They said that a sister of Shaw is going to be.
Wow, that whole family, eh?
Yeah, they're really building out that family, and the
Good
really
for them.
interesting thing is that it's going to be based around kind of like a Departed, Infernal Affairs kind of situation where the sister's actually like a law agent or something like that.
Oh,
So it's gonna
okay.
be
So I
really
guess it's like
interesting.
the original Fast and Furious that he got. He was an agent of the law.
I think they're
He
putting a little
just
nod
was
to
like,
that.
you know what? This is my family. I got to abandon my law post.
Yeah. Or are
All
they
right.
though? I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
You got
here we
three. You got three criminals in there. MI6. I think it is.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, the MI6. They're doing MI6 there.
Yeah,
So
Fallout.
really, really cool. This is shaping up to be. I mean, I'm more excited for this than the remaining, however, Fast and Furious franchise movies.
I can't say that. I see it all as the same stuff.
I definitely see way more interest. I'm way more excited. In this
Yeah,
than anything else.
I mean the cast is good, but what I like about the Fast and Furious movies is that they know what they are, and they're not like they don't lose the fun aspect or ever really like you already know it's cartoonish, and they're not
absolutely.
they don't shy away from that or try to make it seem realistic. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
And so you can just go in and enjoy these movies.
Yeah.
Not like Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
No, I disagree. That's the exact same way I feel about this franchise as Jurassic Park. What I mean by it's more exciting is that because it didn't have the history of the cars, it could lean up to like do so many other things, but still
they don't
be
have to...
animated and ridiculous in the same universe. So that's what I'm really looking forward to. Maybe they're Hobbs and Shaw. They're like, no, we're over cars. It's time for boats, baby. And they're just doing everything by boats, and it really turns out to be like this Knight Rider kind of thing, or a Knight Rider crossover.
Well, Knight Rider is a car.
Yeah. Oh, what's the boat? Night Boat? No, that's a Simpsons gag. Never mind.
Are you talking about Love Boat?
The Love Boat? Oh my god, that would be fantastic.
Anyway,
Love Boat.
He is doing that Disney Cruise movie.
Yes, he is.
Okay, well, you know what? Let's move on because I'm falling out of love with that idea. Yeah, Keri Russell is joining Star Wars Episode 9.
This has led to much speculation that this will be Rey's mom.
Obviously, because everyone has to be.
Every time it's like, ooh, there's another woman cast. It must be Rey's mom. I'm like,
it's Jyn Erso's mom again. No, we already saw her. No,
yeah,
it is her mom.
We realize how many people are in the whole Star Wars galaxy, right? Just calm down a little bit.
So this is JJ directed, right? Did he do Felicity?
JJ. I don't think he did. JJ?
Yeah, JJ Abrams.
I don't.
Oh no, he did.
I'm not sure.
Well, he worked with.
He
worked with her because she was in his Mission Impossible as well.
Yes.
Yeah, he wrote Felicity. He's the creator of Felicity. So this is him making good and being like, come on board, man.
Yeah.
Like, let's do this.
This is him playing George Lucas and being like, hey, I worked with you before. Let's do this again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this. I really haven't been enjoying Keri Russell's change in acting or like her more recent roles as opposed to
I love
Felicity.
her in The Americans and nothing else.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe she was good in Mission Impossible 3. I don't remember.
I enjoyed her.
I just know she died, right?
Yeah, she did die.
It blew up in her head. And I was like, oh.
A little bit.
Yeah.
They did that.
But I never watched Felicity, so I don't have anything negative or positive to say about that. And I don't know anything else about her other than she's amazing in The Americans, and I didn't quite enjoy her in her Planet of the Apes movie. So let's go Star Wars.
Yep. I'm really liking this, but yeah, it's going to be fun. But my bet is on she is not Rey's mom.
I see her as being exactly the same impact on the story as Laura Dern was.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. She's going to have a
She
very
will just
small
be
role.
her own character.
Yeah.
And not, I mean,
She's
related in the sense of not actually blood related to anyone else, but maybe she is a friend of Leia, or maybe she is a friend of. I don't know how much older they're going to make her, but it seems like she would be older than Rey, but she might still be an acquaintance of Rey. Who knows?
Hey,
either way,
she could also be an alien. I mean, that's what.
Well, I mean,
they did
as I
with
say, I
Lupita
feel like they're
Nyong'o.
all aliens because they're not actually from Earth.
True.
So,
but
who knows?
I mean, like,
she could be made up into something else.
Exactly, like Lupita
Simon Pegg.
Nyong'o or Simon Pegg or something like that. It's all conjecture, but right now I am excited for Keri Russell coming to the Star Wars. Good for her. Good for her.
I'm excited. Okay, Jeremy Renner.
Yep.
He's gonna maybe be in Spawn as Twitch Williams. I didn't write the last name, so his last name is not Williams. That's not me saying the wrong thing. It's something else. Don't worry about it.
To me, that gets me even more excited for this Spawn franchise. I mean, like, originally when they pitched it, I was like, this is the budget. I'm like, ugh. And then, like, this is how we're going to do that. I'm like, ooh, okay. And then, like, this is Jamie Foxx. I'm like, And then now they're like, here's Jeremy Renner. So there's, like, a lot of, like, roller coaster news coming out of this franchise.
So you're a Jeremy Renner fan?
I am in this role, in this capacity, because I'm like, I think he could do very, very well. Actually, I am a Jeremy Renner fan. I've enjoyed most of what he's done. I mean, the one Bourne thing
great
that he
in
did
Civil
do,
War.
Didn't really care.
No, that movie
He's
sucks.
great in Civil War.
He is legitimately
He's
great
fantastic.
in Civil War.
Yeah. He's very fantastic. Agent Ultron
That's
is
it.
great too.
No, didn't like it.
I loved him in Agent Ultron.
I'm not saying I have the right opinion. I'm saying I didn't care about him in it.
That's fair.
He has one good speech, and overall, it's more how other characters treat him that makes it interesting.
Yes.
The idea that everyone's like, we just pretend we need you because or whatever. But like, he wasn't great. Anyway, the point is, he's going to be in it. Great. He was used effectively in that movie Tag with John Hamm and Hannibal Buress.
I'm still looking forward to watching that movie.
Now that I've seen it, I'm like, oh yeah, you definitely would have broken both of your arms doing this movie. I don't even know how he didn't break more things. Like they really, I get that he has stunt doubles, but for some stuff he obviously needs to be there. And I was like, even the setup of something like this just to capture you on camera could really mess you up. So I appreciate his commitment in that role about a true story about people who just never stop playing tag. That is insane.
I just feel like Renner could really, really lean into this role and the atmosphere.
I don't know Twitch, so I don't even know like what that means. I don't know what that means for him. I'm just another name. Also, we have the same birthday, so that's good. I feel like I have to respect him just because of that.
Yep.
Now let's get into some DC news. I will talk about the
baby.
least consequential one first. Mark Whalberg took a shirtless picture, and as Ben and I both agreed, he is in great shape.
He's in great shape.
Good for him.
Yeah.
I don't want to give him too much praise, although I have always, every movie I've seen with him, not every movie he's done, but every movie I've seen him in, I have appreciated what he's done. Maybe not one of the Transformers. I don't think anyone
I was
could
going to
say.
bring that up.
No, I don't know. The last one,
The
I know
last night, you didn't
everyone
enjoy that?
everyone hates that, but like I didn't see a problem with it. It was like exactly what.
I didn't see a problem with it either.
It's not good. I'm just saying I wasn't like, this is the worst one. I was
It's
like,
not out of
like
sync out of the other ones.
yeah, I was just like,
It's
at
as
least it
bad.
has Anthony Hopkins being funny or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that's,
To me,
I enjoyed how
it's
crazy he was
just as
being.
ridiculous as all the other Transformers
Yeah.
movies were.
Anyway.
There's no difference to me.
My point is, I appreciate a Mark Wahlberg film. There's a
Right.
certain level where I go in, like, yes, he's gone above and beyond and stuff like Boogie Nights or The Departed even, but there's a certain, groove he hits where I'm like, yeah, I get it. I get what I'm going into, and I will probably enjoy it, and I almost always do. So that is as far as my Mark Wahlberg appreciation goes.
And the thoughts that we had before we went on mic is the idea that he could be playing Hal Jordan in the Green Lantern.
I guess we never even got to what the news was.
Yeah.
He took a picture where he's really posing and showing off his physique.
Oh, yeah, we just talked about his body.
Yeah, and then if you actually search, you could just Google Mark Wahlberg DC. It's
No, just
all
Google Mark Wahlberg shirtless.
No, that doesn't show up.
No, that's exactly what we want you to see. Is Mark
Okay.
Wahlberg shirtless a whole lot.
And then after you do that, look up Mark Wahlberg shirtless DC, and you will notice that there's a weird guy in front of him who just seems to be stretching out his leg.
Now, who's
but
that,
after
Jay?
that,
Who's that?
It's got to be like a trainer or some kind of
He's a DC
life coach.
exec, isn't he? No.
I don't know, but if you look at the headshots that are all like littered throughout the office, they are all people from the DCEU, and it probably means he's taking a meeting of some sort, or
That's it.
he just likes that universe for some
Is
reason.
it a
Doesn't make
casting
sense.
agent? We don't know.
I
but
don't know.
He's basically,
Or he's doing Entourage 2 and he wants everyone from the DCEU in it.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I don't. Here we go.
Entourage 2 movie. Let's do that.
So
Sex
yeah.
and the City 2 worked out so well.
If you
Boom!
ask
Shots
my aunt
fired.
and uncle, they said it was way better than the first movie. So it worked for some people. People I care about.
I guess so. Anyways, okay, so yeah, he might be in the. So those
He might
headshots
be
in
a
the
Green
background,
Lantern.
We're thinking because they're pushing forward with the Green Lantern movie that he might be Green Lantern. And because the thing is, I just don't think he can. I think that would be the best role for him. The idea of him being like, "Hey, Mark Wahlberg as Batman."
No.
That just nobody would buy that ever. Ever.
No one
I
would
know
like
they're
it
trying
ahead
to
of
cast
time.
Young for Batman, but he's too short for it. It's just.
I don't know that he's that much younger than Ben Affleck.
No, short.
Oh.
Yeah, and the age thing as well. If he's not
Yeah.
that much younger than Ben Affleck, it's like, how are they exactly going
Yeah.
younger for him? Don't like that. So it's
yeah,
gotta be
I
like
don't
a Hal
know.
Jordan, like Jon Stewart kind of situation where you and I were talking about the buddy cop scenario, and he does buddy cop so well. So that just makes a lot of sense to me.
I mean, this also might turn out to be a whole Army Hammer thing where he's just trolling people and nothing ever happens.
I think Army Hammer actually legitimately wants those things to happen, and then everything just falls through for him.
Listening to interviews, by the point that he was like posting pictures and making it seem like something is happening, that was just purely trolling.
I see.
He was just like, that ship had already sailed by that point.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that is good, or maybe it's nothing. Who knows? Good for Mark Wahlberg's physique is the main takeaway.
Yep. So just Google Mark Wahlberg physique, and you will see the picture that we're talking about, which is all of them.
Louis Tan
yes.
is a person, and he was Shatterstar, but also one of the shining points of Iron Fist Season 1 because he was the drunken master fighting. He's also way younger than I thought he was.
How old is he?
I thought that guy was in his 40s. I think he's younger than us, if I'm being honest.
No.
I think so. He's, again, great physique, and just he certainly would be able to tell me what to do.
Oh, man.
Because I was like, what? He's that old? I'm going to look it up. And once again, we are not getting to the actual news. We're just talking about
people's
first.
physiques.
Yeah, he's definitely younger than us.
Yeah.
So,
that
anyway,
annoys me now.
Anyway, he is meeting with DC as well, but this time we actually know for sure he's meeting with DC. The idea is Nightwing, and I have to say, as I said, I love Dick Grayson. I am 100% on board with a Louis Tan Dick Grayson.
Yeah.
We know he's got the physique. We know he's got the movement for it. I mean, he doesn't get to show it off in Deadpool 2, but what we got was still funny.
Yep.
But he definitely was able to show it off in Iron Fist.
Yes, absolutely.
Season 1. And I just think he's got a good charisma as well.
Yep. And aside from the whole last name Grayson, I've always thought that Nightwing could easily be an Asian character, like an Asian.
I mean,
character.
he doesn't have to be. I mean, he reads as mixed race. So,
yes, well, that's exactly.
And you
it.
can have
bringing the mixed
John
race aspect
Grayson
into it would
be the white father and
yeah.
a Asian mother,
and an Asian aerialist for the Graysons and all that kind of stuff. It works really, really well. So I would love to see that. It's not out of left field or anything like that to cast him in, but I would love to see that. That would actually be a Nightwing movie I'd be interested in.
And if you're wondering how could this guy who's had so much success with the Marvel Universe turn his back on them, his father actually worked on Batman from 1989, and so this would be like a, family business for him to join in and actually be a part of a Batman-related movie. So I'm really rooting for him.
Marvel was being the traitor.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't think of it that way, but you're right.
Wow. Okay.
How dare you, Louis?
How dare you? We're glad you're getting your senses around you and getting back to DC. Getting onto that sinking ship. But
I mean, he could be part of what brings them back.
Let's hope.
Or this next piece of news could be
because I firmly believe that if like anything, if DC starts doing good in their movies now, it'll be recognized as post Justice League.
Yeah,
as opposed to pre Justice League. There will be two distinct fans will split apart the era, as I've already started doing in my head, pre Justice League and post Justice League.
I agree.
It's going to happen. Yep.
So what's next? The next thing is the Harley Quinn movie, which I guess we're calling Birds of Prey, but who knows what it'll actually end up being called.
We don't know.
We've spoken about this on the podcast before that Margot Robbie wanted this to be like a female gang movie, so it does make sense that even if the Gotham Sirens were a part of it and they were versed the Birds of Prey, that could be cool. She says that it will most definitely be rated R, which is good.
Good. Her character her character works.
It doesn't need to be rated R,
doesn't
but
need to be rated R, but for what they've done already, it kind of makes more sense to keep it.
It seems like the DCEU wants to deal in rated R anyway.
Yeah.
So, we saw what a rated R Batman vs Superman was. It didn't mean a bunch of swearing like a Scorsese movie. It just meant they could go there with the violence and darker themes, which is fine. And as I always go back to when the director of Logan said, like, I just asked for a rated R because I didn't want anyone coming in being like, well, how can we make a toy of this? How can we do that? And I think you set yourself up for success even if you don't use the R. That if you make this like, hey, we're doing a rated R movie, you get more space creatively to do what you want to do. And in the case of Logan, you get a better film out of it.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm fine with that. It's better than hearing like, you know what, after the fact, we kind of realized we could add some more blood and make this a rated R. If they're going into it being like, we want to hit these dark tones and not skimp on the violence, then great. The other thing she mentioned is that she wanted all the characters involved in the comics are white, which is never really the best excuse to keep them white when you cast them in this sense. But she said, the world doesn't reflect what's in these comics, so we do need to make these casting choices to reflect what the world is actually like.
Pushing for diversity,
and
baby.
So she did say she wanted a diverse cast, and I think that will help. It's also part of what I like about the Fast and Furious movies is that they're fun movies where a lot of people get represented.
Yes.
Not every single person, but more than the usual big-time blockbuster.
Oh, absolutely. And the best part about that is because they travel international places, it makes it much more relevant to different markets, too. So it's just brilliant marketing for the Fast and Furious franchise.
Correct.
For this right now, absolutely, being like, it's set in the modern-day world. We need to be reflective of the modern-day world. This is why we're going to do this. It's a brilliant, brilliant thing for me. As well as this most likely means this is an exercise of the rider inclusion clause in our contract now to hopefully show up more people of color and diversity on screen than anything else.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for some LGBTQ representation. If they're going to do an all-female movie, I hope there's going to be some indication of love interest between characters and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, that would also mean that you would have to cast someone from that community and not just erase them by being like, they are, but who knows? And then not even have an actor be able to take up that space. Right. And if they do Barbara Gordon in a wheelchair, someone who actually is in a wheelchair would be a good choice. So, I don't know if that's where they're going. I think she was pretty plain and clear about just wanting to actually reflect the world, and that is always a great thing to do. Yeah.
But let's also keep in mind, she is an actress, not the casting director.
But she is a producer, so she has
say
more say than
sure. Absolutely. And there's also the other thing of, hey, we're going to not sexualize her as much this time around.
Again, I should have before we think I should have made it clear that was what I felt was more editorializing from the person reporting the story than what was actually. All they said was there's going to be a new look, and she said I can't even speak on it because they haven't done the costumes yet.
Right.
I think people thought maybe this would be a chance to course correct because people didn't necessarily like her look and specifically the Joker's look from Suicide Squad. And we know that when Jared Leto gets his solo movie, they have said they're going to change his look from Suicide Squad. So I think it's more just keeping in line with Joker changing the look. They're going to change Harley's look.
Right.
I could do with less tattoos on her face.
I like the face tattoos.
We'll see what happens. It's not to say they're going to go away. I just said if they are changing, that's one thing I'd be like, cool.
Yep.
So that is all we have for the news.
Yes.
That's good timing. I like that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Oh, baby.
Let's.
I'm ready to talk about this. All right. So, first thoughts. What were you thinking? What were you going into this movie with? What did you like?
They surprised me not in a good way.
Yeah, they surprised me multiple ways very early on, and I was like, that's a big risk to take. And then did it pay off? Not really. Not that much. No.
I did like the de-aging again.
The de-aging, by far, is now perfected. To get Pfeiffer as well as
Lawrence Fishburne.
Fishburne.
I mean, they did do
Michael
Douglas, but I really like the Lawrence Fishburne and Michelle Pfeiffer de-aging.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And the Michael Douglas one was great, but because we've already seen it already, it's just like, oh, yeah, old tricks. New hat. But, of course, Fishburne and Michelle Pfeiffer de-aged look flawless. It was just one of the craziest things in the world. I'm like, hold on. Am I watching Batman Returns again? Because it was so spot on. It was awesome.
We'll get into what I didn't like. What I did like, that first scene with Michelle Pfeiffer, I'm like, what a great mom. I would love to be her child. Like, she killed it in that scene, and then the movie decided, well, we don't have time for her, so she will just not be in it for pretty much the movie. I liked Scott's daughter when she has that scene where she was like, because in the trailer you're like, oh, like you need a partner, and she was like, no, I legitimately meant me, and I was like, good for her. Like, good stick up for yourself. I love that. And she actually is helpful throughout the movie. The way she was quickly like, oh no, he's sick, he's throwing up. I was like, good for you.
She's cool.
Don't trust the man. Yeah. Good for you. I love that, and just the way she acted out. Like, I'm never gonna be able to do it justice, but the way she acted out the scene of being like, "Don't laugh." Like, I actually think I would be a good.
I would be.
I was just like, "That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is very touching." And we know that her character does become a version of Ant-Man in the comics. So I liked those two. People said they didn't like Randall Park, but I loved him. I know
you just love Randall Park.
but I liked that game in terms of, if you take out that actor, I liked the game they were playing of
for sure.
Of he has to try and catch Scott in the act of not being at home. Like, I thought that was interesting. And in a movie with less storylines going on, you could really lean into that and have a good time with that. And
plus the whole, like, Ant-Man's the comedic soul of this movie. He has to be. So naturally, casting Randall Park to be Jimmy Woo to watch over him makes it funnier. Versus, like, anytime you have, like, the Wasp stuff, the Hope Van Dyne or the Hank Pym stuff. It's never funny. It's all like
they're not funny characters, which is. It's fine.
Like, all the comedy is tied to Ant-Man in the sense where it's
and
like,
Randall
Louise
Park,
and like Randall Park. Like, it made sense to keep it that way, and I liked it. Of course, I really enjoy Randall Park as well, but I didn't see a problem with this. Like, apparently, a lot of people didn't like it. It was just.
I don't get that. I can't say a lot of people. I've seen a couple reviews, and people are like, "Oh, his stuff fell flat," and I didn't think it fell flat.
I didn't think it fell flat.
I thought it was funny, and I think, again, you run into people who think that every Marvel movie is the same.
Yes.
So they go like, "Oh, why do they have so many jokes?" I'm like, because this one is more of a comedy than Black Panther, than Infinity War.
Without a doubt, a family movie.
Yeah, it's a funny family movie, and that is what it is. It's not the romantic comedy they said it would be, but I'm fine with that.
I'm so happy with that.
But it's still a family movie that is funny.
Yes.
Which pretty much, I mean, yes, there's the heist elements to the first Ant-Man, but that is, again, there is a family element. And when I say family, I don't mean like about a family. I mean, it was a family movie. Like, that's something you take everyone to.
Exactly. Even the whole, like, I mean, it's thrown throughout the whole movie. It's quite there in your face. I mean, with Judy Greer and Bobby Cannavale, like, just being like, "Yeah, you're a part of the family." Like, they love each other now.
I guess I liked great. Bobby Cannavale changing into being like, "Just give me a hug, man. Just give me a hug." I was like, "Yeah, that's funny. I like that."
I really love that.
Especially since it makes sense that if you went through that experience with him, you'd be like, "I guess he is just a good guy, and I just want him to succeed."
Yeah, that's it.
I like that. I like that they weren't ever angry at each other.
Yeah. He doesn't have time for that, though.
No.
I mean,
so that's what I like. What I didn't like, in a nutshell, is that I think the most successful Marvel sequels, and I'm only going to compare Marvel to itself, the most successful ones, if not redefine, they fine-tune the lead.
Yes.
So when you yes, you can like Captain America: First Avenger, but once you get to Winter Soldier, that is the Captain America you are going forward. Like, that was not a hard turn, but that they redefined who he was going to be in that movie. And I will say this: I like the Captain America solo movies the best.
Yes.
I think that's the strongest character. I liked Guardians of the Galaxy 2 because, as I said when we reviewed it, they went deeper into the emotional stuff for these characters. Yes. You have a better understanding of them. So that's fine tuning as opposed to redefining, but it was fine tuning.
Yeah.
So I mean, even Thor Ragnarok, that was a redefinition. Like, they redefined what they wanted Thor to be, and that was a successful sequel. I don't think this movie does that. I think this movie actually sidelines almost everyone. No one gets to get, other than Bobby Cannavale, in terms of being like, "Oh yeah, that's a guy who lived through that experience." Is like, I love Scott. You know what? Good for him, and I want him to be happy with his daughter, and I don't need to bring in my whole thing with this. It was just like, yeah, that made sense. Even Judy Greer being like, "I want to stick up for Scott now." Like, those two seem like they had changed. I thought that you lost something with Luis. I don't remember their names, but like, basically T.I., Michael Pena, and David Desmalchin.
Yeah, Kurt. T.I. plays Dave.
Dave and Kurt is
and Luis.
Like, they were still used to be funny, which is fine, but I thought, like, oh, okay, like, we're spending a lot of time with them with their whole "we need to land this deal" thing, and I'm like, okay. maybe we just needed them to be funny in scenes instead of taking up time of like, okay, like we're building this and we're doing that. Only because then you get to, because I don't think it's a too many villains problem. I think it's none of the villains are dovetailing. Like none of the, it's because you can look at this as the MacGuffin is that shrinking building. There's a point they put it in the trailer so much. Everyone's going after this building, but everyone's going after it for different reasons. And nothing really comes. And I get it. Yes, some of them are conflicting reasons, but it's not like that ties the characters together. It's just incidental that these are conflicting reasons, and they remain incidental and never connected, and that's the problem. You could have had exactly the same amount of characters and just make it that they work together a little bit better to mean something by the end. But the movie is just like, everyone needs this building. We need to get Janet Van Dyne out of the quantum realm. We need to get energy from the quantum realm. Maybe that is attached to Janet Van Dyne. And then Walton Goggins is just kind of like, well, I just want it because I want money. And you're like, oh.
So, that's
all right.
It felt like three stories about the same thing, but never really having kind of any weight behind any of them. I mean, the only kind of thing that did have weight behind it was the whole Hank Pym and Lawrence Fishburne's Dr. Bill Foster relationship. There is like, ooh, okay, that's a little heady, that's a little interesting. So, but then they don't do anything with it.
I thought that was interesting because Bill Foster's like, you always think you have the answers and you got it wrong a couple of times.
Yes.
And Ghost is like, you killed my dad because you thought you had the answers, you got it wrong. And
you shunned him. And all this
but the movie doesn't end on anything. It's really just like, it
just fizzles and forgets. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, well, Pym and Janet Van Dyne are back together, so let's just disregard that whole Lawrence Fishburne stuff kind of deal. That's the sense I got out of it entirely.
I thought it was weird.
What? Come on,
because you could have, again, those characters can tie into your main story way better. It doesn't mean you have to cut them. It just means they needed to figure out a better way of, because again, like, and I'm fine with this. This movie, like Ant-Man, the first one wasn't interested in having this evildoer that they have to stop.
Yes.
It is, like, these Ant-Man movies are, it's clear they need to be about, let's just get something away before the bad thing happens.
They're straight up.
And so that's fine. And you understand Ghost completely. Like, she's like, no, I'm dying. I will die in 2 weeks. I need this thing. So you're like, okay.
That makes sense to me.
Then go get it.
You understand the motivations. They're very easy to understand.
She was very interesting to look at in terms of when she is fighting. But she's not a bad person. She's not a bad person. She's not.
It's very one-dimensional. Because, the moment they're like, oh, Janet Van Dyne, like, cures her, she has nothing moving her forward anymore. She's like, okay, cool, I'm alive now, thank you, I'm good. I don't have to start doing all these things I was doing.
Because they tried to make her like a watered-down Winter Soldier, being like, the shield brought me in and made me assassinate, but like, I clearly by the time we're seeing the movie, that's over. Like, she doesn't feel like she needs to keep doing that. Nope. She's not really like, she is just like, I just don't want to die. And you're like,
and that makes
and she's in pain all the time. She's like, I get torn apart molecule by molecule, like on a very consistent basis, and then put back together. So you're like, okay, so she's not, and so then at least Walton Goggins is the only person doing something bad. Like he's actually trying to like stop. Well, he's a bad guy, but again, he has an unfinished storyline because he's like, you don't want to piss off the people I'm working for. I'm like, who that? Like, what? What is going on here? Anyway, that is what I didn't like, and that's why I like this.
I agree.
It's not like I loved Ant-Man, but I liked Ant-Man for specific reasons, which I'll get into, which are, it worked within the universe in terms of, this is why they're not going to work with the Avengers, they pointed out. And they still got an Avengers cameo, which made sense. And it worked within the universe while also explaining why they're not, just like Doctor Strange. Like, there's a reason you're not just going to see them crossing over all the time.
Right.
And I thought that they did a good job of working that in, but this movie was like, this movie felt like a first movie, like one of those, it felt like one of those Phase 1 movies where it was just like, we don't know, we're not going to talk about anything. I get that they were talking about those repercussions of Civil War, but it was kind of like, I wish, and not like, I want another Avengers cameo, because it's quite clear this is happening while Infinity War is happening.
Yes.
So people are occupied. I get that, but it was just like, it just felt so far removed, especially since he was like, well, I just worked with them in Civil War.
Yep.
Like I could ask Falcon for help or something like that.
Yeah. I agree. There's no follow through on a lot, or there's no satisfying follow through. I mean, the whole thing was all about Hope Van Dyne, Wasp, and Dr. Hank Pym finding Janet again. That was
But I didn't feel like they were different, or like
Yeah.
that whole redefining or fine tuning.
Yeah.
I didn't think that happened for those characters who did have the emotional push in this movie. Obviously,
Yep.
they want to find their wife, they want to find their mother.
Mm-hmm.
I was just they're just the same as last time, which is still pretty ill-defined.
Exactly. It was never really just... It doesn't build on anything. It is just consistently the same movie from the same characters and everything like that, and which is fine, but you expect like they grow a little bit. But the one thing I did really like is the whole nod of like, okay, well, yeah, the whole aspect of, yeah, Ant-Man and Clint took a plea deal to be at home arrest and everything like that, and they followed through, they showed us what it was like, and the idea that he's like, okay, it ties, and this is what I really did like, is that it tied back to the first movie in the sense where he's like, oh yeah, he's a screw up, he's in jail and everything like that for something he did, and now he's got to get out of it. And then like even them breaking apart that kind of thought process that he had is like, well, they showed up and they told me it was a matter of national security, and then I had to go and then, like I had to do this kind of stuff, and that's why I did this kind of deal. So it was like even then he screwed up by not thinking through everything and communicating to Wasp or anything like that, or anyone else, and then being like to Pym, he's like, yeah, I stole your suit kind of deal. And that was kind of funny.
I liked that joke. Yeah. The whole like, please tell me you destroyed it. He's like, I destroyed it.
Yeah.
He's like, that's my life's work. And then he's like, well, we don't have any more suits. He's like, but what if we did?
It's like, but wait.
So yeah, there's fun
really
stuff in the movie, and I
for
like
sure.
some of the stuff. Yeah, like this wasn't me being like, oh, this movie sucked. It was just the disappointment came from the fact that it felt like we were losing ground, whereas there was all the room to like gain ground. And I guess we can talk about the overall plot, which is Janet actually is able to communicate to Scott at one point.
Yes.
So that's what triggers him to call Hank and Hope and be like, hey, like, I think Janet, like, I had a dream and like I was Janet. And so that triggers them being like, okay, so she is alive. All this work we've been doing wasn't in vain. We need Scott to come with us because then we can use him as like the conduit to get Janet out. And so that is, and then there's the game I was talking about of he can't leave the house because he's on house arrest.
Yes.
And and as I said, it's right during Infinity War because it is 2 years since Civil War, and so he had a 2-year house arrest thing.
Yep.
And so for him, the stakes are, if I'm not home when I need to be, I'm gonna lose this. And I think it's 20 years he goes to jail.
20 years he goes to jail, and in that like that kind of water facility,
the raft.
That raft.
Okay. So
so that was crazy to me. I'm like, I wanted to hear a little bit more about the plea deal, like what he took to trade off for that 2-year house arrest kind of thing. Because I'm like, from what you were facing to a 2-year house arrest kind of thing is like, that's a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
Like, even though like 2 years under house arrest is not fun whatsoever, it's definitely not jail. Like, you can still do stuff and all that kind of stuff. But
well, I think
and
that's true. They don't get into it.
Yeah, he could see his daughter, but like I really wish there was like some dialogue that if they were like, listen, like what's his face, Randall Park, Jimmy Woo's character, to go into is like, listen, man, we got this on you, or you, like, if any Avenger call, like, I would have liked them to say, like, if any Avenger does contact you, yeah, it's in violation of your parole.
They
or
do
something.
say that,
but
that's
to lean heavier into it, you know, by like,
I
being
think
like,
they
there's
really leaned into it.
wiretapping devices or something like that.
Well,
but
I don't know, because I thought that was actually very well covered.
Yeah.
That he was saying, like, that was the other part I was getting to, is that it's not just Scott. It's just they haven't caught Hank and Hope. That's why they're on the run. Is that Jimmy Woo is actively trying to get all of them. He's saying you can't have any contact with past conspirators.
Right.
And since you used Hank Pym tech, he is a conspirator. So is Hope.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the reason why they can't get caught together, and he can't get caught outside of it. Is that
I did forget
even
about that.
even if they were at his house, even if he didn't leave and they were at his house, it's the 20 years because he's not allowed to be with anyone that he worked with when he was in Germany. And so, yeah, that is what's cool. And it's not a bummer because you've got someone like Randall Park playing Jimmy Woo and making it fun, and the whole like sleight of hand or like up close magic, and he's trying to learn it when he's at the office.
That was
and,
the
like,
greatest thing to me.
I love that. Or even like the first bit of like, okay, I'm glad they got Randall Park, was when he's talking to Cassie, like Scott's daughter, and he's just like, okay,
Explaining the
let's
law.
just say you got school rules at school, right? And he just actually just explains it instead of using the analogy anymore. He just completely abandons the school. He's like,
just, like,
let's just say your dad wrote on the wall in Germany, which broke the rules, and now, and like he gets so technical and legal.
That was the greatest thing in the world. I'm like, I think Randall Park pulling that, like, could have pulled that off so well. Of course, it's not exclusive to him, but I mean, like, just the fact that he did that, and then at the end where he smiles, like, you understand, honey?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then he just like leaves, and like, that was the greatest thing ever.
Or when he was like, well, I'll get you next time. He's like, what do you mean next time? He's like I'll arrest you. He's like, oh, I thought you meant like dinner. He's like, do you want to go to dinner?
That was the greatest. And then the other, like, honestly, the whole magic card thing, the whole magic
that was really
every
good.
single time.
He's like, I had to learn how to
It's
do
like-
this.
It's like, wait, how did you do that? It's like,
Because I thought he was going to mean, how did you get big?
Yeah.
Then he just, no, the card thing.
the card thing. He's like, seriously? And just like, there was another character that did that too, but it was just, the whole thing was just so great. It's like, wait, how did you do that?
Bobby Cannavale
Yeah.
was like, wait, how did he do that?
Yeah, it was the best thing in the world. Yeah, this was definitely a family movie, and what I really, really liked was we talked about the character of Luis in the first one, how it was a character that could have easily been so overdone, and I'm so glad that in this one he wasn't that way whatsoever until they gave him the truth serum.
I love the truth serum joke.
The truth
That's
serum
a great
joke
game.
was the best thing in the world, but the whole aspect of, yeah, it's been 2 years since you last saw that character. He's now a boss and in control of this kind of like security thing that they've created.
the ex-con.
That's going great.
Well, it's not going great. They were actually days away from being bankrupt.
Yeah, and then he's like changing he's like, oh yeah, I'm taking myself a little bit more seriously and all that kind of stuff. But then the truth serum comes out, and then he just run, and then that's when you see that aspect
that
of
was
his
really
character
fun. And he's
come
like, wait,
out again.
what are you doing? I get back to Scott. He's like, I am getting to that. And then T.I.'s just like, you put the dime in, you got to let the whole song play.
Yeah, it's so great.
Or when he calls Scott, and he's just like, and another thing, I really don't like the way you're doing the dishwasher. Who puts plates on the top shelf? I just really don't like it. I really don't like it.
That pulled me out. I was like, yeah, you know what? That would make me so mad. Stacking plates on top? Why?
No, I like that. Even at his most truthful, the only thing that pisses him off is how he puts the dishwasher together. It wasn't like you're making us, you're causing us to be in danger. It was just like, do the dishwasher better. Just do the dishwasher better.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, or like that Usman was just like, it's not truth serum. There's no such thing. He's like, this is truth serum. This is it. Now he's like, no, it just makes you more amenable to say this. He's like, yeah, that's truth serum.
Truth serum, right? That's truth serum. And they get to use it on them afterwards with Goggins and his crew.
It's kind of like in,
damn, this is truth serum.
That was in Justice League too, where
bit.
she had the lasso on them, and they started talking, and I was like, wait, I feel like I've seen this scene already. I'm like, oh wait, no, that was just Justice League. Never mind. But yeah, good for them. What else? Did you? I guess we can get into Bill Foster and Ghost a little bit more, just because they, the marketing, are a big deal. But
yeah, I mean, for Lawrence Fisher and Bill Foster being in there, it was really, really interesting because I was just, for him, it was always like, listen, you screwed me over, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to go rogue and do my own thing. But always at every point in time that he was like, Ghost was just like, listen, are you going to help me or whatever? Like, I'm going to die. He's like, I don't know. Maybe we do this instead. I'm just like, either you work, who are you working with right now? You either work with Ghost or you work with the...
So I don't think it was a working relationship. I thought it was like a
whatsoever.
father-daughter relationship.
Yes.
That's how he saw it. Obviously, she didn't see it that way. And so there's aspects of, I want her to prosper, but I also don't want her to be a villain. Like, I don't want her
playing it like the true scientist that he is. It's just like the role, the moral question of like, if you could kill one person to save 100,
right.
What
so
would you
he's
do?
let a couple of those things slide, as he said. Like,
Exactly.
a lot of the times you go out there, I don't agree with what you're doing, but like, this
But now
is
you're
getting us
pushing too
closer.
far,
Yeah.
Especially when like the whole thing is like, you can't kidnap kids, you can't do
Yeah.
that kind of deal. I'm glad he's like started drawing his line, but at
And
the
I'm
same
glad
time,
she actually didn't kidnap.
yeah, that would have
Cassie. I
been
was
so
like-
hard to see.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, good. That she
would've
does
been-
listen to him. Like
yeah.
she's like, fine, I'll find another way, and
Like,
she did.
well, the thing is, like, if she doesn't, like, that's kind of her best bet to get better and everything
Mm-hmm.
like that, right? It was just it was just really weird for me because I'm like, at this point, you should just work with Hank and swallow the past and the.
I get the
everything
sense that no one wants to work with Hank other than
like that. Yeah,
Hope and
other than
Scott.
Hope, yeah. And even then, not Scott. Because, and this is what I found really funny about this movie and the first Ant-Man,
Mm-hmm.
is that when you really, really think about it, it is Hope and Pym controlling Scott or using Scott to whatever they need. Because
Right.
it's just like, the first one is like, I can't wear the suit anymore. If I have too many Pym particles, yada, yada, yada,
Right.
I will die. So, and then I'm not giving it to Hope because she's
She'll
my
die.
daughter, so let's give it to this guy who's already tried on the suit and
Yeah.
all this kind of stuff. Let's give it to him. So they're like, okay, we're going to use him. And then the second movie, they're like, well, because Hope communicated with him, we need him, so we're going to grab him. Because the whole like
Janet,
Janet. The whole 2-year part. They didn't try to contact him, obviously, because he
Yeah,
was
they were
bait.
working on their own.
But now that they're like, yeah, I think Hope's alive and all that kind of stuff.
Janet.
Janet, damn it!
I
is
only
so-
correct you because it will get very confusing.
It's so
Yeah.
confusing for me because I like every time I say Janet or Hope, I just really want to call them by Evangeline Lilly
Yeah.
or Michelle Pfeiffer instead.
But yes, Janet is Michelle Pfeiffer. Hope is Evangeline Lilly.
yes, so it was just again Pym and Hope using Lang again to get what they want. So
I
thought
get
was
that,
really, really
but I
great.
do think he still would like Hank's
Oh,
respect.
yes.
I don't, like, whereas Bill Foster is kind of like, yeah, this is what trying to get his respect gets you, so I'm done. I'm over that.
Right.
And Ava Ghost's father can't really speak for himself because he's dead.
Yep.
So I think, and again, you already touched on this. I thought they were going to get to like a crisis of conscience for Scott of like, should I really be working with Hank? And like,
Yeah.
because there's two examples of people being like, you don't work with him.
Yep. And then there's the other thing too. I was just like, I really shouldn't be doing. Well, he does. To be fair, he protests this a lot because like, guys, I got to leave right now.
Yes.
They're coming to my house right now. And he does it successfully a couple of times. And he never gets caught. That's really, really great. So I really like that whole like, guys, I'm like 4 days away from being
Yes.
free. Just like chill it for a second.
And I mean, he does owe them in the sense that he stole their technology and
Yes.
has implicated them into
Yep.
into this thing because they're also on the run.
Yep.
I guess, yeah. So the Bill Foster thing was interesting that way.
Mm-hmm.
Ghost, as you alluded to, is
Not really
Pretty
a bad
one
guy.
note.
She's just
yeah.
very desperate to be alive, which is more than understandable.
She has done bad things, but
Yep.
again, in a
For
Winter Soldier way.
understandable
Like, they just contracted her to do
Yes.
this. And I don't know if there was like, I mean, she obviously would have done that while they had the sleeper Hydra cells in there. Like,
Yep.
so who knows?
I
But
loved the character design of Ghost.
Yeah.
The suit itself was awesome. It was
I liked her voice too
Yeah.
when she's in this suit.
yeah. Because I love the video game Destiny. It's very much like a Destiny Hunter character.
Interesting.
That it looks like. So I was like, oh, that looks cool. I hope they have a skin on the game that looks like that, and I could be like, I'm Ghost, guys. Pew, 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 pew. And that'd be a lot of fun for me.
I liked it. Yeah.
That's why I like the character design. But yeah, it looks a lot like Destiny 2, which is funny because like in Destiny 2, you have these little like assistants called ghosts. So
Oh,
I was like, I
interesting.
didn't know if they really realized that they were going to make this joke or like if this is a meta joke or something like that. But I'm like, I caught
That is
on to
very
that.
interesting,
It's
actually.
interesting stuff. But yeah, so I wish that her character was a little bit more multidimensional, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah,
It just
I
didn't
got the
have
sense
anything to
that like
offer.
this movie,
It was a countdown movie again. Was it?
yeah, and it's early.
this-
It's early Marvel where the
Exactly.
focus is on the heroes,
Yep.
which once you catch on to, you're like, okay,
Yeah,
I
because
get
now
it.
we're all like, okay, now we've got the Hela thing, and
Yeah.
now we've got Killmonger, and now we've got Thanos. We're kind of we're in the position where we're expecting a more focus on the villain.
right.
But of course, it couldn't do that in this one because the focus had to shift to Hope a little bit more as a crime fighter.
Which
'Cause
I
she's
still
now-
don't think they did. We should talk about
Yeah.
Hope now.
Yeah. I mean, they shifted to her, and
Like she gets more action
she
scenes.
gets way more action scenes.
But
she doesn't.
you don't learn anything
you
about
don't learn
her.
anything new. She's still the same character because you forget like, oh, the only thing new in this one is that she's got the suit. Everything else is like, oh.
And you're just like, oh, and she's just better than Scott, but that's because she's trained her whole life.
And then she's also got more weapons and capabilities than Scott does, except for the whole big thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, that's it. Like,
it wasn't really a character dive. It was just like, no, look at the cool things she can do, which, unfortunately, you gotta be like, well, you gotta, even when Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow is on the periphery, you still learn stuff about her, and there's like levels.
That's what
to
I
that
love
character.
about her
Like
characters.
especially
small,
in
like,
Winter
little
Soldier,
things.
like you just learn about her, and even in Avengers, she's got that little bit about like there's bread in my ledger, and then that just gets. They just keep exploring that.
Yeah. They
sometimes not great, but
I think that's fantastic. Here they could have done something very, very similar.
They could have explored something else other than we already knew that she was upset about her mom, and I guess the only change is she's completely on board with her dad now and doesn't really have any friction with him.
Yep, that's. I mean, but who cares?
Yeah, it was disappointing they didn't go further with her.
Yeah. It was really disappointing, to be perfectly honest. But at the same time, if there was friction between her and Hank, it would.
No, I'm not saying keep that. I'm saying we didn't. There was no change other than she has no more friction with her father.
Yes,
there needs to be more change than just that.
Yes, absolutely, I agree. It makes her just character tied together with her father's, and I just don't think that's great. I wanted it to be like, I don't have any friction, but he's still a hard person to work with, kind of deal.
Yeah,
and
it didn't seem like she was on board with anyone being like he's hard to work with.
Yep.
I mean, it's whatever. That was disappointing. I thought they were going to get into more of that. I definitely thought there was going to be more Janet, only because she comes out of there after 30 years. Yeah. You'd think maybe there would be some period of her going crazy, but no.
That's what I was expecting.
Her whole thing was just like, no, good. I'm glad you're here. I've been waiting.
You've gone subatomic. You've seen all these like little microbacteria that look like giant crazy like things now that we see like that whole scene where Pym's in the little vehicle or whatever. You would expect for all those years of isolation, solitary confinement, that you would start to go crazy, as opposed to like, the first contact, we're going to be able to like configure these machines right away. Like, that made no sense to me. It's like, you've been stuck there for how long, unable to communicate or observe anything, and you took control of Scott's head. Which
I did
was
like this.
One of my favorite scenes.
That the way it was acted out, but I know what you're getting at.
That scene itself was amazing to me. But don't tell me you can just figure out the technological advancements right there and then. But she also did say that it's like being in the quantum realm that long changed me. I know things now, or something like that. And obviously, when she did the Ava ghost thing,
the glowing hands,
the glowing hand, like healing her thing, I'm like, that's one of the many powers. So like, I'm more interested to see how that continues to develop. But at the same time,
seems like it will not.
It doesn't seem like it's going to have any follow through, not until at least Phase 4, if they get an Ant-Man 3.
But, I mean, she can still show up in other people's movies. Like, what's his face?
Yeah. Like
Selvig from Thor. No, I mean, like, Selvig from Thor has been in an Avenger movie. I don't know. That's it. But she can show up in other things. I just don't think they will. I just thought that was like, that's all we're using her for. Yeah. Only because she was so great in the first scene.
Yeah.
And that's not to say she's not good in other scenes. It was just like, what a waste of a talent.
Yep.
Which brings us to Walton Goggins.
Yes. Thank you. I was so annoyed when I saw Walton Goggins in this. I'm like, this is going to be good. And this is the first time I've been let down by his kind of
I was let down by Tomb Raider more than I was let down by this.
I was not let down by Tomb Raider more than this.
No, I was.
Were you?
Yeah.
So you thought this was better than Tomb Raider? Like, his contribution to this was better than Tomb Raider?
Just because it's underwritten doesn't mean every time he's on screen it's not good. I think that in Tomb Raider, there's too many things about what he's saying that don't make sense. Like the whole, I haven't been able to talk to people in years. I'm like, you have all these people around you. What do you mean?
Yep.
Or like, there was too many inconsistent things about his character where I'm like, I don't get what's happening here. I don't understand what you mean. Whereas at least here, he's just there, but at least when he's there, he's doing what you would expect Walton Goggins to do in that in that sense. Mm. It's a disappointing role more than it is a disappointing performance.
Mm-hmm. That is true. Yeah, it is a disappointing role for him. Sonny Birch. is his name.
Which apparently Sonny Birch and Ghost are more Iron Man villains
Really?
in the comics. I think I read that.
Well, it doesn't lean,
They've
doesn't
never
seem like they're gonna
interacted
follow
with
through
Ant-Man.
there.
You know, I guess what I liked about his character was that it created some sort of immediacy, but what you lose is any kind of like follow through or ability to tie in more things. Like I'm like, oh, okay, who's his big boss? Are we gonna have another double cross? And it's like, no, he just said that because I guess you got to say things like that. And and it gives Ant-Man someone to get huge and beat up or something. I don't know. It was. Yeah, if you've seen the trailers, you've pretty much seen what his contribution to the movie is. He just runs around with that building.
Yep, that's it.
And he wants it.
Plays keep away.
And his henchman Uzman has truth serum, and it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But that's it.
But apparently it's not actually truth serum.
Well, no, Uzman said at the end, oh, wow, this is truth serum.
Yeah, it's hilarious. That truth serum thing was by far one of the best things. So then we have, I guess, a non-interesting role for him. You have T.I. and David
Dasmalchian.
David Kurt, who got downplayed significantly in this one. Good.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no reason for them to be a bigger part of this anyways. I mean, they just...
Well, they would be a bigger part if you wanted to do like a Team Flash, Team Arrow type thing and actually have them doing reconnaissance or like backing up and being... Like if you had them be like, hey, you got to get back home because this is happening.
Right.
That would have been how you work them in.
I would have
you can still do
that
funny...
happen,
You can still have funny moments with them.
Yeah.
Interacting, but that's how you would tie them in. As I said, the whole we need this contract thing was kind of like, I guess so, but I don't know that we care about these characters enough for that to be that to be a worry because it's so far removed from
the only
getting
thing it
Janet
does
out.
is it just kind of builds up more about how Paul Rudd's character Scott Lang keeps making the wrong decisions and all that kind of stuff, and when finally it's like, oh, we got the contract, I'm like, but that was a circumstantial thing that just happened with the time whatsoever. But
well, no, that showed that was actually those three characters win.
It was
because
more of them.
They were
Scott
seen on
Lang.
news apprehending those bad guys. So that was like that had nothing to do with Scott. And
Exactly.
That wasn't
So
it wasn't a consequential thing either. It was like, oh, someone saw what their use is and what their value is, and so they can be successful outside of Scott.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's just proving the point that maybe they don't need to be there if they're proving their worth outside of him and just doing their own thing elsewhere.
Yeah. So it's just like it seems like everyone is really just we don't really need Scott. He's just kind of there, or like when we do, it's just like for a couple of things, or
and I think you kind of realize like he worked great in Civil War because he can just show up and do his thing.
Yes.
And it might be that he is like the Hulk and that maybe you just want him to appear in other people's things and do his thing and then
which I think
you move on.
That is the extent of what he should be used as.
It's hard because not Scott Lang, but Ant-Man and the Wasp are such important characters in the Avengers mythos that it would be... I mean, so is the Hulk, but he has had 2 solo movies.
Yep.
So I think... If you're Marvel, it is weird to not dig into that world. It's just, and I do like that they skipped over Hank Pym because he's got issues in terms of his comic book history.
Yep.
So it was nice that they skipped over, and as we probably said when we were reviewing the first movie, it made for a better first movie because it's like, no, here's someone who's done it before, and they can teach you, and we don't have to worry about how does he know how to do all this stuff.
Plus, it's not only that too; it's also the idea of like you can't tell me that one like Iron Man coming out just like started all this shit all of a sudden. The fact that there's Captain America like ages ago, and then there was also,
Goliath, there was Ant-Man and the Wasp,
guys that were just like they weren't
Captain
connected,
Marvel,
and now they're connected because it existed in the past, and that's why S.H.I.E.L.D. can think of this. It's like, hey, we had these guys in the past that did these operations for us. Hope Van Dyne, Janet Van Dyne, as the Wasp, saved like 100,000 people by her sacrifice and all that kind of stuff. We're probably going to need something like this closer in the future. Let's start putting these people together. It makes sense from that.
Yeah, it makes the world bigger, which is good.
Exactly. It makes it much, much bigger, gives it much more history and everything like that. So it's fantastic to actually see that. But I didn't want to see him on camera. Like you said, I didn't want the majority focused on him. However, they are talking about doing a prequel movie with.
Oh no, Peyton Reed just said, "Yeah, I would do that." Which
I'm like,
I've watched.
I
can't remember her name. I wish I could give her credit, but she's usually on this show called Heroes,
right.
And she says statements like that are statements I call the "Would you like cake?" statement. It's like, yes, of course I'd like cake. Yeah. So if you're asking a director who's in Marvel and obviously has a good thing going, wait, would you do another movie? Yeah. They would. They would like to do another movie. Of
course they would.
If you're asking an actor who's like, I need to get into this superhero thing, hey, would you play Batman? Yeah, I would play Batman.
Yeah.
So it's not like a real thing. It's not something that's
not
it's just
thing.
Like you get asked something and they're like, yeah, sure.
But also,
I would do that.
A part of that too is like me thinking with my business brain being like, if you put that out there in an interview and then monitor the amount of like online activity immediately following that, and how much interest there is pro or con, you might think a different kind of strategy going forward if they didn't have something planned for Ant-Man 3 already.
Right.
So it might be like, ooh, yeah, maybe Paul Rudd's interviews right now regarding Ant-Man are falling flat. So maybe we do take a look at this prequel.
Yeah, they could.
Obviously,
it would be hard to work with Michael Douglas on that.
It'd be so hard to work with him. Whatever.
Yeah, So there's that. So let's talk about the mid-credit scene, because I think we've talked about the movie.
Yeah, we have. Mid-credit scene wasn't exactly what I thought it would be, to be perfectly honest.
I thought that would happen, but I do like that more you think about it, I like what they've set up in terms of maybe he is stranded in the quantum realm.
Right.
What I thought it was going to be was confirmation that those other people were in the quantum realm, but I guess that wouldn't make sense because he didn't get snapped away. Hope, Janet, and Hank got dusted.
See, what I was initially expecting was when they go into the quantum realm, that what was the first purpose? Like, what was the second purpose of putting Scott back in the quantum realm?
They were gathering more energy to help Ghost.
More energy to help Ghost. Okay, that makes sense to me. So Ghost still has her power. She just was given a medicine for a month or something like that. And
I think she helped her thing, but I think they probably needed more energy.
Oh, I see.
Because the whole idea was I'm just going to drain Janet of her energy. Whereas I think there was Janet was no, I can still help you. I can help you. And then that was kind of this will tide you over for a bit. And then they go back in to be let's just collect this and then give her a more sustainable.
Okay, that makes sense to me. I was expecting that when Scott goes in, he would hear someone's voice that got dusted.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was expecting.
That's what I mean, some kind of confirmation that someone got dusted.
Yeah,
but then
not
again,
to see a face, but to be to hear Peter Parker's who's that? Or Falcon be are you kidding me?
Tic Tac.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess the reason that wouldn't work is if he did that, even if they didn't want to have someone else in the movie, the confirmation would have been he's already in the zone, and then they're in there as well, and you see the dust, and then that can confirm to people, they did get transferred to the quantum realm, because it would the the mathematics would be okay, so they got dusted. Oh, now they're in the quantum realm with him, and then he's then we're all stuck here, or whatever. But what I liked about it was this kind of tense thing of hey, no, guys, stop playing, and then showing the dust, something that I'm sure people figured would happen, but in the moment, I thought they played it well. Just like the other dustings, it still was it wasn't a shock thing. More as where this leaves the person affected by this dusting. It's
kind of a nice nod to you're back in jail again,
right?
To that whole you're in isolation again or in jail or whatever it is. Haha, Paul Rudd. But no, I'm joking about that. Because I thought his role in this movie was perfect for what I like from Paul Rudd, is that he's a supporting character. obviously he's not happy about that. Because he's
I don't know what he's happy or not happy about. I just
based on
know
the
that
interviews that he's given, it doesn't seem like he's happy about
I
it.
think he's happy to be in the universe, and maybe I don't know because he gets writing credit on this one.
Yeah, I thought he'd be happier. I thought like he'd be like, I'm a leading man of my own franchise. This is a big deal, and then they keep like sidelining him.
I mean,
his character.
At the end of the day, he's getting paid like the leading man, and he's still
yeah.
getting the face time of a leading man. So that's not what I think would be his issue. I think maybe that speaks to maybe the amount of interviews he's already done by the time I heard what I heard.
I guess.
I think it also speaks to maybe he acknowledges that maybe it was a step backwards.
Right.
I don't think it's him being like, this is stupid. I think they said he's very happy to be there, and like that scene where he's like, here's your shield captain, like that was him legitimately being happy to be there.
Right.
So that stuff I don't think is a problem. I just think I think he's maybe just been worn out by that.
I think that's only fair. I mean, like doing press now.
Yeah, and you've got to go all over the world, and you're kind of like, oh,
yeah, because there's a difference
if
between
you're at a
acting and
podcast
yeah.
versus a press junket, maybe you are like, can we talk about other things right now?
Yeah, let's talk about your lunch.
Yeah,
what are you having for your lunch? Mung bean? That sounds excellent.
So yeah, the mid-credit scene was that, and I'm not here to tell you don't stay till the post-credit scene. But if you've seen the trailers, you've seen the post-credit scene, which is the giant ant playing the drums.
Yep, I didn't appreciate that. And I'll tell you why.
The only thing before you get into that, the only thing that plays into staying there is that at the normal thing of, hey, Ant-Man and the Wasp will return, they put a question mark on it, and it's kind of like a second fuck you.
Yeah.
Well, like, other than that,
the whole
there is no other
cool. So much.
Yeah, like
so
that
good.
is cool to experience with an audience. I will say that. Like, I liked watching this with the audience because they really reacted to the dusting scene.
Yes.
And they really reacted to the question mark.
Yes, that to me was like great. I didn't appreciate it because I had 2 beers in my stomach and I really needed to pee. So being like that was it. There was no. I can't. Damn it! I just ran like really shuffled fast to the washroom and had the most epic piss of all time.
Well, Captain America warned you on Homecoming. Sometimes patience aren't worth it.
Yeah, which is true, which I really, really do love. But yeah, the dusting scene. So of course, Janet, Hope, and Hank are dusted off.
Hopefully not his daughter, which is why I said when we first saw Infinity
Cassie?
War. Yeah, well, I was like, man, like if you want to get these guys back involved, you got to dust their family.
Yeah. But you know what I was actually hoping too was a cameo by Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye in this.
Oh yeah,
because like they would have had the same kind of release. They would have taken the same plea bargain. Him and Ant-Man, 2 years house arrest and everything like that. And then Hawkeye would have shown up toward the end. This is where I was thinking the second post-credit thing was going to be. It's like, oh, it's going to be Hawkeye showing up and being like, grabbing that mic. It's like, hey, man, we got to go or something like that. How do I fix this out? But now the speculation is, how does Ant-Man tie into Avengers 4 in the sense where... what could he do? I mean, like, Janet, being in the realm, had a good knowledge and background of quantum realm stuff and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's what she was studying.
Yeah, exactly. Paul Rudd does not. He cannot reverse engineer. Like, oh, this is what went wrong. This is how we fix it. And all that kind
I guess
of stuff. Because,
the idea is he could still get out of there the same way he did in the first movie.
Well, I think the only way that he could get out, and this is a very easy cop-out fix, is that, oh, okay, well, Ava or Ghost goes like, hey, they were supposed to drop it off like a day ago. We haven't heard from them. Bill Foster goes like, ring, ring, Hank Pym, where are you at, bro? And then, like, no call, and then they kind of look at their, like, reverse engineers, like, oh, this is where the last place they were. And then, wait, what's this device? This seems very similar. Like, oh, there's the truck with the whole, like, quantum realm thing. Oh, my God, something happened. Push button, Paul Rudd comes back. Yeah. That's a very easy thing to do.
Or just how he did it in the first movie.
Yep. Exactly.
Just because I don't think they're bringing back any of those actors for anything.
Probably not.
But yeah, I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about it now just because we've obviously entered the spoiler part of Ant-Man, but there are pictures of Ant-Man during the Battle of New York with a much older Tony Stark, but younger somehow, or I guess he's not younger so much as like just a beardless Captain America.
Yeah, so the Captain America exactly when it was in the Battle of New York, same haircut, same everything, same costume. and same with technology that Ant-Man is wearing. So that's going to be really interesting to see what happens in Avengers 4. I thought there was on some level, I'm like the dusting thing. I'm like, cool. Was hoping for a bigger kind of like clue as to what's going to happen in Avengers 4. Maybe we might see that in Captain Marvel, but now I'm starting to think we won't.
I don't think so.
Really, they're playing the plot and everything to Avengers 4 very close to the chest with that move. I'm like, because this is the movie that leads directly into
Infinity War. Or sorry, Avengers 4, not Infinity War.
Versus Captain Marvel set in the 90s and then just gets fast-tracked toward the end by that pager and everything like that. That's what the post-credits most likely going to be. Bring goes the pager, and then he's like, I gotta go, and then Captain Marvel's like, I gotta go, and then flies off with her new mohawk at the end of the movie.
You really want that mohawk? Cool.
I'm a big fan of that.
Looks like we're gonna get a lot of different looks for Captain Marvel, so it would actually be a slap in your face if they don't do the mohawk.
I would really be disappointed if they didn't do the mohawk, because Karen Gilligan was like, hey, I have 4 days. She had a 4-day shoot. She still shaved off her whole head.
Yeah,
she
the first time.
Ball cap.
No. She only shaved her head the first movie.
But the second movie is largely because there was another movie immediately afterwards. I mean, she's pulling Jumanji 2 money, baby.
She only shaved her head for Guardians 1.
Yeah, but still had a 4-day shoot. Shaved her head for a 4-day
But that's
shoot.
like to show commitment initially, and then she's like, I can just do a ball cap now.
It's not like a Natalie Portman thing for Vendetta.
Oh, nuts.
Where it was like, oh, well, the shoot's going to go for like 2 months. I guess you got to shave it no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
That
commitment.
was just like, Karen Gillan was like, hey, 4-day shoot. Straight up shaving this. What are you going to do now, hair and makeup people?
There we go.
Just fire the hair people and just go straight to makeup. Good times.
Nice. That is Ant-Man and the Wasp. Let's rate it.
All right. What are
You
we
can
doing
go first.
here? Yeah, I'm doing a 5 on this.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Because
what was the first one that I gave? I don't even remember.
No idea.
I want to say like
second
a
episode
7
we did.
or a 6. But this is definitely because it misses the mark on so many things. It's a fun movie. It's a family movie, which obviously I'm not the biggest fan of.
Mm-hmm.
And not because I hate family movies, but it's because I don't identify with it as much.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a 5. It is meh. It's there.
I give it a 6. It's I want to hope that I gave the first one around a 7.
Yeah.
I think, they lost ground. They
totally
still had moments that truly entertained me.
Yeah. It's like the things the things that I loved from the first one, they didn't double down on or they didn't improve on. They had, if not the same, less of those elements.
Yeah.
And I didn't love that.
Yeah. Well, that's it. A 5 and a 6. Better luck next time, Paul. All right. We don't know what the next episode is, but it won't be next week because this was just a special occasion of 2.
Do we? And we're just being coy about it.
Maybe Ben is.
As
I really don't know what's going on.
Playing with his fingers like Mr. Burns right now.
No.
That's real because I said
I'm playing with my toes.
Yeah, he's not doing any of those things except for his toes, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not seeing it.
It's a secret. All right. Thank you very much for listening. You can find us on tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten. You can also find us and other amazing podcasts on dorkshelf.com. That's where we're housed, and that is where you can find all the recent episodes. And if you want the old episodes, tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten. You should definitely subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, Radio Public. See, you don't have to just do Apple stuff. And review us mostly on Apple Podcasts because I don't know what else it matters on the other ones, but definitely review us, rate us because it helps us, and share us with your friends because we have a lot of good ideas and everyone deserves to hear them.
That's right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Bye.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.